The MMORPG genre has a ton of subgenres within it, just like any other genre within gaming. There is action MMOs, 2D platforming MMOs, tactical MMOs, and the list goes on. One subgenre that introduced me to the world of MMOs, though, was what I dub the social MMO. The genre took more of an emphasis on making online friends or playing like a sim game similar to something like Stardew Valley, rather than having you do a bunch of raid content or endgame PvE stuff. Games like this would have been Habbo Hotel, Second Life, and my personal favorites, Free Realms. However, the last decade or so hasn't seen any new social MMOs take the spotlight, at least until now. Palia sets to be a new online sim multiplayer game that brings back that trademark social experience, which obviously this type of game has been missed, with Palia garnering a ton of attention and hype, with its trailers getting nearly 2 million views each. Touted as the cozy sim MMO, Palia is shaping up to deliver on that more casual approach, all with the promise of being completely free to play, completely free of pay to win, and having a cash shop only available with cosmetics. Developed by Singularity 6, a group of developers hailing with experience from Blizzard Entertainment, Epic Games, and Riot Games, Palia has raised a huge amount of attention for a game that is seemingly meant to appeal to those who normally wouldn't even touch an MMO. But is it really an MMO worth your time? Well, I played a ton during the closed beta, so let's talk about Palia and why you may want to jump in on the fun.
Lovely. Wow.
Palia's story takes place in a world where humans have disappeared mysteriously thousands of years ago. The world is now inhabited by a humanoid race that resembles elves. One day, humans miraculously start reappearing, starting a reemergence of the human race. You play as one of the reappearing humans. Your goal is to find your place in the world, bunker down in your own living space, and maybe along the way, discover what happened to the humans all those years ago. All of this, of course, starts with character creation. When you first boot up Palia, this is where you are brought, where you can choose if you are male or female, with some minor customizations to your face, hairstyle, and clothes you wear. It's nothing like Black Desert Online, where you can customize just about everything your character has, but for what this game is going for, it's serviceable. Once you have created your character's look, you then play a short tutorial, which will teach you many of the basic game mechanics, such as moving around, gathering resources, establishing your house plots, questing, and finally exploration. And of course, it teaches you that you can climb things with a stamina meter, because every game that comes out after Breath of the Wild has to have a climbing mechanic. And a glider. Yep. So it has a glider too, just like Breath of the Wild. The graphics and presentation of Palia mimic the look of Fortnite's cutesy, cartoony character models. You can bet this was done on purpose to appeal to that demographic from a marketing standpoint, and I gotta admit it's eye-catching. The environments look great, and the world of Palia feels alive with the villagers and different things you can interact with. Music is also pretty stellar, as most of its tracks evoke a sense of adventure and mystery in relation to the context of the humans. There just isn't a ton of music tracks yet. The main gameplay loops of Palia is improving your life skills, building and decorating your house, interacting with the villagers to improve your relationships with them, and finally, socializing with other players. Palia at this current time has a total of 8 skills that you can improve and level up. There is mining, foraging, fishing, insect catching, furniture making, gardening, hunting, and cooking. Each one is pretty much self-explanatory. You can mine rocks to get ore like copper and iron, forage for food and wood, fish for, well, fish. Skills level up as you use them, and your harvesting skills all require a tool that can be upgraded that will allow you to harvest higher level items. Higher level tools do have to be repaired the more you use them, but at least it's relatively cheap to do so. At level 10, you unlock that skill's accomplishments that reward skill medals, which can then be traded in for exclusive items from specific shops. Most skills stop unlocking content at level 10 though, so leveling past 10 for now is to get get more metals or to just see how high you can get. To go into more detail, mining is used to collect rocks, which can smelt glass, and metal bars, which helps create arrows for hunting or make refined materials for furniture. Foraging covers basically anything you find on the ground while exploring, as well as chopping down trees for wood. Hunting and insect catching actually have you testing your aim, as you use a bow and arrow to shoot prey or throw stun bags to be able to stun bugs to catch them. Fishing works similar to other games where you grab a rod and throw out your fishing hook, wait for a bite, and simply play a minigame to reel in the fish. Just, don't fall in the water. What is with games not putting in a swimming animation? The resources you collect from hunting, fishing, and foraging can then be cooked to help replenish your focus. More on that in a bit. Finally, gardening is probably the most different of all the skills, as it's probably the most time-consuming, but also the most knowledge-intensive. There's already guides out there on how to best min-max your garden crops to help minimize weeds or plant dehydration, or getting maximum crop yields. Oh, and gardening also gives food you can cook, or cotton which converts to fabric to help furniture making. Basically, almost everything helps furniture making. On the flip side though, any items you collect through any skill, except furniture making for some reason, can be sold to get gold. Gold is the universal currency used in shops to buy resources, recipes for crafting, or most importantly, upgrades for your bag space and player-owned house. Bag space is probably the most important thing to upgrade first, then things like increased gardening soil, crafting benches, and others. Either way, all the items you collect can be used for something, whether it's to get gold or to make more furniture, which is a good thing that everything you do works towards furniture, because decorating and building your house is one of the key features in Palia. Everything you craft and a lot of the things you find in the wild can all be used to decorate your very own player-owned house. The housing in this game is a bit more involved than other MMOs because of the social aspect with it. Obviously, you can invite your friends and other players to your home to check out what you've built, but you can also do activities here which benefits all players involved. Things like cooking food with other players that require multiple steps will actually reward all players involved, which encourages group gameplay. Having access to other players' homes also typically allows you to interact with any of their resources, if they've given you the ability to do so. This may help save you a trip to town if you need to do something simple like craft or repair your gear. Palia encourages players to interact with each other with just about everything they do. Training skills with a friend is easily done with the game's built-in party system. I just wish group gameplay was a lot smoother. For one, grouping in a party doesn't seem to always place you in the same synced areas, meaning you will constantly have to go to your friends list and hop to your group instance if you aren't matching up. Collecting resources isn't always as smooth either. Certain skills work flawlessly, like fishing. Others are a bit more clunky. Fishing, for example, in a group benefits all players near each other because fishing together grants a group buff that helps everyone catch fish easier, therefore increasing experience in fish caught. Simple, right? Mining and foraging, however, are a bit trickier. Collecting resources that you mine or cut all have to have players participate to share those items. Early items like rocks, sapwood, or copper are a bit more awkward to try and share those resources, since those resource nodes tend to be collected easily, meaning it's hard for everyone in the party to actually get a swing in to be able to collect their items. Higher level resources have a system built in where it actually requires a group to harvest those items, making group gameplay actually matter for those skills, but early collection might as well not even bother. Now, you are probably wondering why players don't just trade each other items they collect in a party to make things easier. Well, you can't quite do that either. A simple trading system doesn't actually exist in Palia, meaning I can't just straight up give something you need. No, you have to request that item within the item gifting menu. Item requesting and gifting also has its own restrictions, so it just comes off as being a pain to be able to even help your fellow players with something as simple as giving an item they need. Besides the multiplayer gripes, Palia at least makes training skills feel as enjoyable as it does in RuneScape, at least in my opinion. Skilling doesn't progress, however, unless you keep up with the focus meter. Whenever you gain experience in something, you will see this purplish pinkish bar start moving down. Think of it as a hunger meter, because that's basically what it is. The less focus you have when collecting materials or engaging in activities, the less experience you will receive. Recovering focus simply requires you to consume food, which makes cooking one of the most important skills in the game. Focus can also be improved in other various ways, such as increasing your maximum focus or increasing how much experience your focus gives. Spending renown at shrines, a currency you earn from gameplay, will either increase your max focus or experience. Renown is pretty easily earned from just about everything you do in the game, from leveling up, completing accomplishments, questing, fulfilling player requests, and finally something we should probably talk about now, which is improving your relationships with Palia's villagers. The NPCs you can interact with in Palia all have their own stories, feelings, likes, and needs that you will learn about as you interact with them. Similar to games like the previously mentioned Stardew Valley, players can interact with each villager and improve their friendship with them. Doing so grants renown, new quests to complete, and potentially even romance options for the player to involve themselves with. Certain villagers also represent each life skill guild. For instance, Reth manages the Cooking Guild shop, where you can purchase new recipes for cooking as you level it up. The quests granted by the villagers are all your basic fetch quests, but there are some that are more involved, mainly into storyline quests, where you may have to solve a puzzle or explore a new area. These more involved quests were far more enjoyable than the normal fetch quests that most of the villagers give, and I hope to see more of them become the norm in the future. The villager friendship feature is nice, but there doesn't feel like a ton of villagers in the world of Palia, at least at the time of this video. Obviously, this will be expanded as more content comes out, but I can't help but feel like the world is a bit empty with only 23 available villagers. And if I'm being honest, the game itself doesn't feel like it has a ton to do yet. Now, to be fair, the game is in an indefinite open beta, essentially early access. Much of the gripes I have with the game, or janky glitches, oh the jank, are subject to change and be fixed. And really, an MMO is an ever-changing type of game, but I am making this video with how the game plays in its current state, and currently the game just doesn't have as much as it could. Currently, with the game's 8 skills, there isn't a whole lot to them, and the world is only 2 open world maps. The developers have said there is more coming, so I'm assuming that we will get more skills like tailoring to help with clothing choices, or something like adventuring that will tied to the hidden treasure chests and objects you find. The game definitely feels like an early access title, and I can see players who have short attention spans moving on rather quickly. Luckily, the developers have been quick to address player concerns and feedback, so I'm sure there is a lot to look forward to. But that's probably the best way to really describe Palia. There is a lot to look forward to whenever it releases, since they haven't actually stated when the open beta will be completed. Oh, and the game is supposed to release on Nintendo Switch as well, but no confirmed date on when that will be available. What it has is great and fun to play, but there just isn't a lot of depth yet. Of course, there is a ton of promise here. Training skills with friends is fun. You can sink tons of hours into fine-tuning the look of your house. You can hang out with villagers and even start a relationship with them. Right now, though, all of that can be done relatively quickly. After a handful of gameplay sessions, you will see almost everything Palia has to offer. Hopefully, because it's an open beta, they have quite a lot of content in the pipeline ready to come out. But of course, like a lot of early access games, they do have a fully functioning cash shop, which, it's pretty standard at this point, but let's talk about it. So the cash shop at a glance is pretty harmless. Everything currently offered here is all just cosmetic. There is nothing that you can buy besides clothes that your character can wear, so if you truly want to look unique, then you can go nuts. There is a couple things that will bother people though. First off is the secondary currency you have to purchase. Palia coins is what your money converts to, which is then used to purchase these cosmetics. I'm not sure why companies don't just sell cash shop items for straight cash. No, it's always got to be these currencies, which of course typically have bundles that won't cover the price of most items, forcing you to buy the higher value packs on purpose. To be fair, the pricing on some items are as little as 10 bucks or less, and I'm sure sales will be held in the future. But in comes the second problem. A lot of these quote-unquote outfits are pretty darn expensive. The more flashy looks get as high as $30, since the only way to get enough coins to buy them is to buy the higher value coin packs. Okay, maybe I do know why companies do that. Obviously, it's to make more money. Also, a lot of these clothing bundles are literally just the same things with slightly different details or colors. Hardly enough of a difference to warrant selling an incredibly similar looking outfit 3 times or for a bundle price. I get that it's all cosmetics, but in a game where fashion is a pretty big selling point for its casual audience, these will be a main focal point during gameplay. Personally, I don't care. It's just clothes that will make the character look different. I'm not swayed to spend a fortune on cash shop goods in Palia. I can see other cosmetics being introduced though, like unique gathering tools, emotes, or special effects, and as long as it steers clear of crap like experience boosters or straight pay to win items, then it's not egregious. Still, I'm not sure why the developers thought it would be a good idea to mimic the bad practices of cash shops like Destiny 2, but hey, they are willing to listen to player feedback, and maybe these concerns will be adjusted. To close out my thoughts on Palia, it's a completely fine game for what it is. Grab a couple friends or your significant other and have a relaxing, cozy time building a house, talking to villagers, or going on a short adventure together. But if you are looking for a more engaging experience, Palia just isn't that type of game. Maybe in the future there will be mini games or more exciting content, but for right now, Palia is a social hub with some minor activities to take part in. Let's wrap things up on Palia and get to my final thoughts. Palia is, at least as far as I'm aware, one of the first major social MMOs to be released in recent times. So if you are looking for a more casual, easygoing game, Palia will feel right at home for you. Basically, fans of Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, and so on should enjoy this. The game is free to play with no purchase necessary to jump in. Currently, the game is in open beta, but it will stay free upon release. The game has, and rightfully so, a very extensive and controllable player-owned housing system, where you can place, move around, decorate, and customize a lot about your housing plot. This will be where I believe most players will probably spend most of their time, and I can't blame them. Being able to customize your house down to the extensive detail that this game allows you to do is pretty darn awesome. Finally, the game has a pretty unique friendship relationship system with its villagers. It kind of reminds me of the favor system from Black Desert Online or Lost Ark, but here it's a bit more in-depth since you can actually unlock content like quests, items, and even romance. Oh, and I suppose it's worth mentioning that this is planned to be released on the Nintendo Switch, so it is coming to consoles if you are looking for a couch experience in the future. Since the game is in beta, expect to come across bugs. I definitely did. While none of the ones I have experienced were game-breaking, there was some that caused character rollbacks or stopped progression. So if you want a more polished experience, you might want to wait. The cash shop has been a point of controversy in the Palia community, and honestly, I agree with some of the points made. It's not ridiculous in terms of what's in there because it is just cosmetics, but dang, is some of the prices just super expensive. If it's bad now, I can only imagine what it will be like when they add furniture or other items in there. The game did just release, so I'm giving it a bit of slack here, but there isn't a ton of content yet. You have 2 world maps, a good bit of villagers, and 8 skills to play around with, but you basically experience everything in Palia in as little as 10 hours or so. For a free game, that's actually not too bad, but if you want to retain players, they will need more to do. I'm sure I don't have to say this, but I mean, I will. Palia isn't a PvP game. You won't be able to kill other players or anything like that. I can see the developers adding something like maybe fishing contests or something competitive like that, but it doesn't have any competitive PvP right now. For a multiplayer game, Palia feels so against it sometimes. Multiplayer is a bit finicky with how certain activities work, and for some reason you can't even talk to players specifically in proximity to you for some reason. Why are so many MMOs against chat bubbles? I really don't understand it. Finally, the game hasn't been given a dedicated release date yet. In its current state, it definitely needs more before it's ready for a full release, but if you're waiting to jump in on release day, well, you might be waiting a while. And that's Palia. I probably sounded pretty harsh on the game, but honestly, I've played it quite a bit and have had a fun time with it, so I hope it gets better as time goes on. Anyways, it's that part of the video where I ask you, the viewer, if you are playing Palia or if you are on the fence about it. Comment down below your experience with Palia. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more content. Follow all my social media in the description below, and I will see you in a future video, hopefully. See you later.